What unfolds when a $800 million deal is met with arrogance, prejudice, and the unexpected strength of a woman who should never be underestimated? Within the opulent confines of the Plaza Hotel's ballroom, a single insult ignited a cascade of events that would unravel an empire before our very eyes. A cascade of laughter erupted, bright and enthusiastic, echoing across the gleaming marble floor of the Plaza Hotel ballroom. Alicia Carter remained unperturbed. She lingered by the champagne tower, adorned in a modest ivory dress. Sequins are absent. There are no diamond earrings. There was no shimmering emblem to signify the strength she possessed. She raised her phone to her ear, her eyes fixed on the woman gesturing from across the room. Behind that woman, a semicircle of men in finely tailored tuxedos wore grins that suggested they viewed the scene as nothing more than a game. One of them audaciously snapped his fingers at her, reminiscent of a gesture meant to beckon a waitress. Before we proceed, may I ask from where you are tuning in? Share your city or country in the comments below, and if you stand for dignity and justice, please like and subscribe. These narratives ignite transformation, and we are delighted to have you with us. Let us return to Danielle. Her voice on the phone was soft, measured. It is unfolding before us. Terminate the agreement worth $900 million. The laughter wavered, not extinguished, but marked by a subtle imperfection. They had not listened to the words. Instead, they observed the manner in which she delivered them, calm, assured, as if she were not the one trapped, but rather the one in control of time itself. With which catering company do you align yourself? The Gregory Hunt to the right raised his champagne flute, calling out with a flourish. If you move swiftly, a gratuity may be in order. The woman beside him wore a sly smile, inching closer as if to strike. Darling, this is intended solely for investors. Though the music in the ballroom continued to play, a palpable change swept through the air, drawing every gaze toward the source of the disturbance. A photographer paused, caught in the moment just before the shutter clicked. Close to the stage, Jessica Morales discreetly extracted her phone from her clutch, the camera lens capturing the vibrant scene framed by a row of crystal glasses. Danielle's lips formed a subtle arc, barely perceptible, offering no solace. She had encountered this stance previously, a guise of entitlement masquerading as decorum. At the age of 28, she found herself unceremoniously ushered out of a boardroom she was meant to command, simply because her name had been overlooked on the list. At the age of 34, she found herself mistaken for her own assistant during the high-stakes negotiations of a global acquisition. The man's voice resonated once more, amplified in intensity. Protection. A guard in uniform lifted his gaze from the entrance, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his features. The matriarch of the group, adorned with a pearl necklace, her eyes gleaming like steel, deftly removed the event pass from Danielle's wrist. The tearing of the paper resonated sharply, slicing through the delicate strains of the quartet in the corner. Remove her from the situation. Danielle remained still, the phone pressed against her ear. Priority 1, she murmured gently. Across the ballroom, Jessica Morales's hand clenched around her phone. Though she was unfamiliar with the woman in ivory, she recognized the gaze in her eyes, a silent power that required no shouting to resonate. A force that would, in mere moments, transform the atmosphere of the entire room. The chandelier in the ballroom cast a colder, sharper light, illuminating the edges of judgment in every gaze. The men in tuxedos remained still, yet their voices resonated, as if they commanded the very atmosphere around them. Which committee brought you on board? The Gregory Hunt proclaimed once more, his voice rising in intensity. His tone was not one of curiosity. It was a commanding presence. The Margaret Whitmore interjected, "You're delaying the service. Others are waiting." While Danielle's gaze remained fixed on them, she adjusted her stance, serene, one hand resting at her side. She kept the phone in her other hand pressed to her ear. From her vantage point near the stage, Jessica Morales, not yet 30, raised her phone higher, the camera lens weaving between two champagne flutes, the red record dot illuminating her intent. She was no longer merely an observer. She had taken on the role of a chronicler. A waiter ambled past, his gaze darting between Danielle and the group of ostentatiously dressed accusers. Silence enveloped him, yet the tension in his jaw spoke volumes as he continued to press forward. The woman adorned in a pearl necklace stepped forward, the heels of her navy pumps echoing against the marble-like surface. "Darling, this gathering is for investors of true significance." She cast a fleeting look back at a nearby security guard, a man in his 40s adorned with a silver earpiece. "Kindly show her to the exit, if you would." The guard faltered for a moment, and Danielle seized upon that fleeting uncertainty, cataloging it in her mind. At 34, she observed a hotel concierge hesitate in that very manner, before informing her that the Ritz-Carlton penthouse, Central Park South was, regrettably, already booked. The moment of stillness arrived when policy confronted prejudice, leaving both sides uncertain of the outcome. The guard approached her, moving with deliberate slowness and a sense of caution. "Madam, I must request to examine your credentials. M6. "They're gone," Danielle said, her voice steady as she gestured toward the torn event pass held delicately in the manicured hand of the pearl necklace. The reporter's eyebrows arched in surprise. She repositioned her phone, immortalizing the woman clutching the shredded remnants as if they were a prized possession. The pearl necklace wore a sly smile. "We have two paths before us, one smooth and straightforward, the other fraught with challenges." Danielle lowered the phone slightly, allowing her voice to resonate clearly. "You have already made your choice, and it is a difficult one." Then she lifted it once more to her ear. "Relocate the capital to Harlow. Do not linger for the signing." Jol. A wave of hushed astonishment swept through the crowd, prompting subtle adjustments in their postures. A man clad in a gray suit leaned in to whisper to his wife. Did she truly just utter the name, Harlow? The wife's eyes grew wide with surprise. The Gregory Hunt within the assembly let out a derisive laugh. "Is this merely a performance? Do you really believe we would be deceived by a mere ruse?" Danielle's eyes remained steadfast. No pretense, only commerce. Allison, the reporter, advanced with a measured step, her voice steady yet precise. To set the record straight, she received an invitation. "This afternoon, I came across her name on the investor list." The Gregory Hunt let out a sharp laugh. "It seems you may have misinterpreted it." "I did not," Allison responded, raising her phone slightly higher. "Moreover, I am not alone in my observation." From somewhere beyond the circle, a youthful voice joined the conversation. Ethan Diaz, balancing a tray of sparkling water with effortless grace. "She speaks with honesty." His words, though softly spoken, resonated deeply. The smirk of the woman adorned with the pearl necklace wavered, if only for a fleeting moment. Danielle beheld it. All were involved. She allowed the silence to linger for a heartbeat longer before speaking into her phone. "Phase 2 is in motion." The guard halted abruptly, caught in a moment of stillness. Uncertain of what Phase 2 entailed, he sensed it would not bode well for those who had called upon him. The atmosphere in the ballroom had shifted beyond mere tension. It was weighty, reminiscent of the initial drop in a tempest that understood precisely where to land. The music from the string quartet lingered softly in the air, yet it seemed disjointed, as if it were a remnant of a different evening altogether. Margaret Whitmore moved in closer, her perfume cutting through the air, her voice rising to ensure the nearby tables could catch every word. "Individuals such as yourself often attempt to infiltrate spaces that are not meant for you." Daniela remained utterly still, her gaze unwavering. The Gregory Hunt seized the moment, extracting a pristine event pass from his pocket, though it belonged to another, and extending it with a teasing flourish. "Perhaps this one will align perfectly with the narrative you're presenting." With a measured and intentional pace, he ripped it asunder, allowing the fragments to cascade to the marble floor like a shower of confetti. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Allison, the reporter, was already maneuvering to seize the moment, her phone unwavering despite the rush of adrenaline coursing through her hands. The matriarch cast her gaze upon the security guard. She seeks the spotlight, lingering in the moment. Eliminate her presence. The guard advanced with purpose. Danielle stood firm, unwavering in her resolve. What are the reasons behind that? Fraud. Gregory Hunt replied without hesitation. She is masquerading as someone else, attempting to weave herself into a $900 million transaction. Ah. That figure of $900 million lingered in the atmosphere. Conversations at nearby tables came to an abrupt halt as several guests paused, their attention drawn away. A man clad in a tailored navy suit leaned toward his companion. The dimensions of the Whitmore deal are as follows. Danielle's lips pressed together, not out of fury, but with meticulous intent. She tilted her phone down slightly, allowing her voice to fill the space around her. It was. The matriarch's gaze sharpened. What was it? Danielle lifted the phone once more to her ear. Please confirm the complete withdrawal of capital. Kindly redirect your attention to Hudson Capital Group. Inform both legal teams. From across the room, a sudden cough erupted. The sound of champagne sputtering forth. The Gregory Hunt chuckled once more, yet this time the sound faltered midway. Redirecting anything is simply not an option. You hold no significance in this place. From the rear, the youthful Ethan Diaz raised his voice once more, this time with greater volume. She is someone. One does not simply walk away from a $800 million deal without possessing a significant stake in it. The matriarch spun around to face him. Refrain from involving yourself in this matter. Alas, it is too late. Allison interjected, her tone sharpening with intensity. The instant you ripped up her pass, you turned it into a matter for all to see. The security guard halted, just 2 steps away from Danielle, eyes flitting between the accusers and the ever-expanding throng of spectators. A handful of phones were lifted into the air, visible for all to see. Crimson record dots flicker, resembling tiny, rebellious signals. Danielle's voice remained soft and deliberate. Are you absolutely sure you want me gone? Just one final time. The matriarch acted without a moment's pause. Indeed, she inclined her head toward the guard. Proceed with it. Ah. He advanced yet again. In that moment, Danielle pivoted, not retreating but advancing, narrowing the distance between herself and the group that had been orbiting her since the initial affront. The pearl necklace's stance wavered slightly, a mere whisper of movement that caught the attention of every observing gaze. Danielle's voice remained steady, yet each word resonated with impact. You have just informed the wrong woman that she is unwelcome in the very space she has rightfully secured. The tempest had finally unleashed its fury. The ballroom had transcended mere buzzing. It now pulsed with a vibrant energy. Each glance, each whisper flowed like an electric current through the room, nourishing an unnameable essence that lingered among them. Danielle steadied her phone, her gaze unwavering as it remained fixed on the matriarch. Proceed to phase 3. She instructed into the receiver. On the other end, a clear female voice emerged, Lauren Mitchell, her chief of staff who posed no questions, simply understood. The legal team is currently engaged, and the transfer of capital is underway. The Gregory Hunt let out a derisive scoff, a sound now as fragile as glass. Phase 3, what is this? A game? For the first time, Danielle's gaze drifted toward him. This is not a mere game, it is an audit. The words did not strike with the force of a punch. Instead, they descended with the weight of a filing cabinet plummeting from above, every burden and certainty. From her corner of the room, Allison's voice cut through the air once more. If she's merely pretending, what's causing that unease in your expression? Her phone was positioned with intention, capturing both Danielle and the accusers within the frame. The Margaret Whitmore retorted sharply. This woman is attempting to bring shame upon my family during a public gathering. No. Danielle gently corrected. Your actions are conveying more than I ever could express. The security guard shifted in his stance, a hint of discomfort evident in his posture. He had witnessed a multitude of spectacles at prominent events, allowing him to discern when chaos was brewing, and this chaos was not unfolding in the manner the accusers anticipated. By the champagne tower, the young Ethan Diaz leaned in to another waiter, murmuring, "She's in control. Observe her. She remains perfectly still, only shifting when it suits her purpose." Danielle heard the familiar sound of Lauren Mitchell's voice once more. The Whitmore family's portfolio has been marked by corporate for violating the principles of good faith in negotiations. Shall I bring Harlow's team into the conversation at this point? Danielle's gaze traversed the room. A growing number of phones captured the moment, some doing so with a quiet discretion, while others boldly displayed their intent. "Indeed," she declared, "let it resonate with volume." The laughter of Gregory Hunt echoed, yet it rang empty. Even with the might to do so, no one would dare to annul a $800 million deal in the midst of a gala. That is not the way the world operates. "That is precisely the way my world operates," Danielle remarked. The matriarch entered once more, her voice cutting through the air. "Are you aware of the person you are addressing?" "Indeed," Danielle responded, her smile flickering just on the edge of visibility. "Do you truly?" It resonated, not only with them, but also with the circle of observers who were unraveling the reality. Allison inhaled softly, a subtle yet perceptible breath escaping her lips. "It seems we are on the brink of discovery." The guard paused once more, torn between the command he had received and the unsettling intuition that he was on the brink of a decision that could jeopardize his entire career. Danielle set her phone down gently. Her voice held a serene quality, yet there lingered a sharpness reminiscent of the tense silence just before a verdict is delivered. "You have labeled me a fraud. You have shredded my credentials. You have attempted to exclude me from a venture I meticulously crafted. Throughout it all, I have maintained my patience." She advanced slightly, causing the distance between them to shrink, becoming more intimate, more constricted. "The time for patience has come to an end." Lauren Mitchell's voice echoed through the phone one final time. "All parties have been informed. The press statement is prepared, and you are cleared to move forward." Danielle gazed at the matriarch, the esteemed Gregory Hunt, as the pearl necklace shimmered beneath the glow of the chandelier. "Good," she remarked. "It is time to bring this to a close." Silence enveloped the room, as if it were holding its breath. The revelation was imminent. The chandelier light appeared to lean in her direction, as though the very room yearned for a clearer glimpse of her presence. Every phone lens was now captivated by her presence. The quartet, too, had decelerated, their bows suspended above the strings. Ensnared in the palpable tension that enveloped everyone present, Danielle advanced into the expanse that lay between herself and the Whitmore family. Her heels were unwavering, each click against the marble resonating like a ticking clock. "For the past 15 minutes, you've acted as if I stumbled in here by accident," she began. Her voice resonated with a tranquil clarity, each syllable carefully articulated, effortlessly reaching every corner of the room without the aid of a microphone. "You have leveled accusations of fraud against me. Security has been summoned. You have obliterated my credentials before the gaze of 200 witnesses." Gregory Hunt crossed his arms, attempting to muster a smirk. The matriarch's jaw was firmly set, yet her fingers gripped her clutch with increasing intensity. Throughout the entire conversation, Danielle pressed on. "You never once inquired about my name." She hesitated. The silence hung thick in the air, a palpable weight as we waited. Allison, the reporter, captured the precise instant when Danielle's eyes became keenly focused. Phones moved together, the red record lights unwavering like the rhythm of a heartbeat. "I am Alicia Carter," she declared. Her voice ascended, slicing through the atmosphere of the ballroom. "The chief executive of Carter Global Holdings, the mastermind behind the very agreement you were commemorating this evening. The $800 million Whitmore acquisition you've been boasting about? I constructed it, I provided the funding for it, and I have entrusted it to your competitor." The words exploded into the atmosphere. The matriarch blinked, her lips parting as if to voice a retort, yet no words emerged. The arms of Gregory Hunt fell slightly. Gasps erupted from the outer circle of attendees. A solitary figure at the rear clapped sharply. A singular sound that drew others in, their responses uneven yet swelling. A wave of applause interwoven with hushed whispers. a shift unfolding before our eyes. You're just pretending. The Gregory hunt succeeded. Danielle inclined her head. Take a moment to glance at your phone. It stood as both a formidable challenge and an inescapable decree. With a moment's pause, he drew it from his pocket. His gaze darted to the screen, the color draining from his face. The matriarch mirrored this action, her elegantly manicured fingers quivering as she perused the text. All around, individuals were responding to the identical push notification. Whitmore Global has incurred a staggering loss of $800 million following its immediate deal with Hudson Capital Group. Allison's camera captured the precise instant when the matriarch's posture faltered, pearls shimmering as her shoulders sagged. The Gregory hunt averted his gaze, yet found himself trapped with no path to escape. I didn't need to raise my voice, Danielle remarked, her words cutting through the unexpected stillness. Your efforts rendered my call to the press unnecessary. I merely allowed you to step into the light. The security guard hesitated, retreating slightly, as though he sensed the precarious balance between obligation and chaos. From the distant corner of the ballroom, the Ethan Diaz who had spoken earlier leaned into his colleague, murmuring, "She commands the space now." There was no dissenting voice. As the push notification echoed through the ballroom, the air transformed from a taut silence to a palpable fracture. Conversations splintered abruptly, words hanging in the air. Glasses were placed upon the table with haste, the crystal resonating like a chorus of alarm bells. The face of Gregory Hunt was now flushed, though not with a sense of confidence. His jaw moved in silence as he whispered to the matriarch, "This can be resolved." "No," she muttered under her breath, her eyes flicking toward the door as if escape from the humiliation were within reach. Yet, there was no escape from the lenses that had already ensnared her. Allison's phone remained steadfast. She focused intently, capturing the pearls glistening against the matriarch's constricting throat. Across the room, Ethan Diaz placed his tray down and folded his arms, a subtle, defiant smile playing on his lips. The quartet in the corner had ceased their playing altogether, their bows now resting against their sides as they observed the true performance take shape before them. A man clad in a navy suit, one of the trusted advisors of the Whitmore family, stepped forward. "Danielle, this isn't needed. There is an opportunity for us to revisit the terms." Danielle remained resolutely facing away from him. "You had your opportunity to converse with me when you perceived me as merely a waitress. You squandered it." The security guard, stationed a few feet away, subtly adjusted his stance. "I beg your pardon, ma'am." His voice, though soft, resonated in the abrupt stillness. For a fleeting moment, her eyes softened not in forgiveness, but in a quiet acknowledgement before she turned her gaze back to the Whitmores. The Gregory hunt made another attempt, his voice tinged with desperation. "We did not, in fact, do that." "You did," Danielle interjected, her voice carrying a weight that left no room for argument. "And now you must coexist with it." Allison's voice drifted through the air, directed at no one in particular, yet captured in the moment regardless. When power enters the room with a subtle grace, a wave of consensus sweeps through the gathered crowd. A renewed wave of applause erupted, growing more rhythmic, echoing through the lofty expanse of the room. Onlookers stood with their phones aloft, acutely aware that they were capturing a fleeting moment destined to resonate far beyond the confines of the ballroom. The matriarch made one final play. "We have the ability to set this straight." Danielle moved in, her approach measured and intentional, devoid of any hostility. "It would have been fitting to acknowledge my presence before I had to declare it myself. It would have been appropriate to extend basic dignity to a stranger. At this moment, what remains is the deal that slipped through your fingers, accompanied only by silence." Ethan Diaz spoke once more, his voice more resolute than it had been previously. "To erase someone twice is a privilege not granted." That line struck with undeniable force. Even the guard inclined his head slightly, a deliberate gesture. Danielle squared her shoulders. "This dialogue has reached its conclusion, and with it, your entitlement to my attention has also ceased." As she made her way toward the exit, the phones continued to capture the moment, the murmurs of the crowd trailing behind her like a retreating wave. The Whitmores remained motionless, their pearls and tuxedos transforming into mere costumes from a production that never quite found its footing. For the first time that night, Danielle found herself in a rare moment of silence, the only one in the room who felt no need to utter another word. A subtle vibration marked the beginning. The phone belonging to Gregory Hunt vibrated twice, a relentless quiver against his hand. He cast his eyes downward and paled at the sight of 3 missed calls from the chair of the Whitmore board. The matriarch's clutch emitted a sharp ring a moment later, its ringtone cutting through the atmosphere with the precision of a reprimand. She remained silent. Across the expanse of the room, Charles Bennett's phone flickered to life as well. He withdrew, his voice dropping to a hushed, pressing whisper. Yet, even in the absence of spoken words, the message resonated unmistakably. The efforts for damage control had commenced, yet they were already faltering. Allison's camera captured every moment, the shifting stances, the flurry of texts, the subtle signs of panic. She murmured into her microphone, as the family's disintegration unfolded before her eyes. The guests, once gathered closely around the Whitmores, began to disperse, their courteous smiles fading into the ether. A couple near the champagne tower turned abruptly in the midst of their conversation, seamlessly merging into the small gathering surrounding Danielle. Their body language revealed the true nature of their loyalties. Margaret Whitmore extended her hand towards Gregory Hunt's arm, her poise beginning to unravel. "We must make our way to the car," she whispered softly. "Not yet," he replied, his teeth clenched, his gaze following Danielle as she moved away. Yet, as he cast a glance over his shoulder, he noticed that a significant number of investors present were deliberately steering clear of his eyes. The quartet, having remained hushed since the unveiling, commenced the subtle act of stowing away their instruments, as though the occasion had reached its conclusion. In truth, the gala ceased to be a celebration the instant Danielle stepped onto the floor. Ethan Diaz, remaining close by, inclined his head toward another server. Now, they bear the mark of radioactivity. It is a universal truth that no one desires to be observed trembling their hands. He was indeed correct. The inner circle of the Whitmores had fragmented into disparate pairs. Every individual leaned forward, engrossed in their phones, dispatching messages that bore the unmistakable scent of damage control. A woman, unmistakably a PR handler, rushed in from the hallway, her expression taut and a tablet clutched in her hand. Gregory Hunt cast a glance at the screen she presented and muttered a curse under his breath. Across the grand expanse of the ballroom, Danielle's chief of staff, Lauren Mitchell, engaged in hushed conversation with a select gathering of distinguished guests, the executives of Hudson Capital Group. Their stance exuded a sense of ease, almost inviting warmth. Documents were passed between parties. Smiles re-emerged. The message was clear and undeniable. The balance of power had irrevocably changed, and there would be no return to the old ways. The matriarch finally succumbed, her voice a piercing whisper. "She has utterly obliterated us before the eyes of all." The Gregory Hunt remained silent. He gazed at Allison, her phone directed at them like an unyielding spotlight, leaving them no room to evade its glare. In the distance, a guest whispered, their voice barely rising above the ambient noise, yet just audible enough for the closest devices to capture the sound. "This predicament is of their own making." Then came the sound that sliced through the air, the harsh scrape of chairs as more guests stood to depart, not merely to follow Danielle, but to forsake the Whitmores entirely. The ballroom gradually emptied, the once expansive space that had belonged to them diminishing with each passing moment. The collapse was not on the horizon. It had already arrived. Danielle took her time. There was no necessity for her to do so. Every step she took toward the exit was measured and deliberate, as if she were allowing the Whitmores to fully absorb the weight of their unfolding reality. Lauren Mitchell intercepted her midway, a sleek tablet grasped in her hand. "All Harlow contracts are signed," she murmured. "In accordance with your directive, we have rescinded Whitmore's access to the Carter Global Holdings investor portal." "Good," Danielle remarked. "Ensure that every vendor and supplier within our network receives the memo before the stroke of midnight." Lauren Mitchell's fingers danced gracefully across the screen, currently in the process of drafting. "Are you suggesting that I include their legal team in the CC?" Bury them in it, Danielle replied without a moment's pause. The Gregory Hunt, steadfastly anchored in the ballroom, appeared to perceive the gravity of the conversation unfolding around it. His voice sliced through the dwindling murmur of conversation. It is unacceptable to simply exclude us. We possess agreements. Danielle shifted just enough for her voice to reach across the distance, her words floating through the air. Understanding forged through mutual respect. You rendered that clause null before we even embarked on tonight's endeavor. Whispers cascaded among the few guests still present. One investor murmured, "She's completely shutting them out." His tone blended wonder with a hint of trepidation. Lauren Mitchell's tablet chimed, signaling completion. Notices to vendors have been dispatched. The IT department has confirmed that their logins have been disabled. Perfect, Danielle remarked. Additionally, convey the same to the press, articulated as a values decision. It is essential to communicate that we do not engage in partnerships with individuals who demean others in public settings. From her perspective, Allison witnessed the instant Lauren Mitchell pressed send. It was a gentle tap, yet one that would reverberate with consequences for years to come. The voice of Margaret Whitmore finally broke. "This is spiteful." "No," Danielle said, turning to face her completely. "This exemplifies responsible leadership. Should you find it harsh, reflect on the experience of standing here, hearing that I was deemed unworthy of the deal I painstakingly constructed." The matriarch's lips quivered, yet silence enveloped her words. A server glided past, balancing a tray laden with sparkling champagne. With a soft touch, Danielle halted him. "I'll take one," she declared, raising the glass with a sense of quiet resolution. "Additionally, dispatch one to the Harlow table. Extend your heartfelt congratulations to them." Across the room, the Harlow executives lifted their glasses in a gesture of recognition. The symbolism cut through the narrative with precision. The festivities had officially shifted locations. Lauren Mitchell inclined her body forward for a final moment. "Shall I proceed with the portfolio review of Whitmore's holdings?" Danielle responded without hesitation. "Indeed. Identify any connections to our network and proceed to disable them." The Gregory Hunt found himself taking an involuntary step forward, yet halted abruptly, burdened by the multitude of phones capturing the moment. He understood that a single misstep at this moment would echo across the internet for weeks to come. Danielle placed the champagne flute back on the passing tray, leaving it untouched. "I don't need to toast to this," she murmured gently. "It was never a victory. It was merely a recalibration." With that, she pivoted once more toward the exit. The Whitmores stood frozen, locked out of more than merely a party. The notifications surged through phones like a tidal wave. One by one, heads lowered over illuminated screens, the ballroom started to resonate not with melodies, but with the soft, electric murmur of unfolding news. Allison vocalized the words for her live stream audience, her voice tinged with the excitement of a fresh revelation. Brooks' global official statement announces the immediate termination of its partnership with Whitmore Group, citing a breach of values and public misconduct. She cast a fleeting look at the lens. That is the confirmation, dear readers. This is not mere speculation. It is a verifiable truth of the corporate world. Across the room, the Harlow executive stood, exchanging firm handshakes with guests who, just moments prior, had been caught in the gravitational pull of the Whitmores. The shift was unmistakable. Wealth, prestige, and focus were gravitating toward this emerging epicenter. An older investor gently tapped his friend's shoulder. "Retrieve anything you have entangled with Whitmore before Monday." The friend nodded, his mind already weaving the words of an email to his broker. A PR agent clad in a navy sheath dress discreetly slipped into the corner. Her phone pressed to her ear. "Tomorrow's press conference is to be cancelled. No, just don't bother rescheduling. We find ourselves in a state of salvage now." Her gaze flickered toward the Whitmores, then swiftly averted, as though the very closeness was a matter of poor judgment. The Ethan Diaz who had spoken earlier brushed past Allison, murmuring, "It feels like watching a building collapse in slow motion." She remained in agreement. The cameras had shifted their focus from Danielle, now pivoting to seize the aftermath unfolding around her. The Whitmores' circle dwindling, the advisors dispersing, The matriarch's eyes locked on the ground. In a hushed exchange, Danielle found herself engaged in conversation with Lauren Mitchell close to the exit, calm and composed, with clear instructions delivered without any fuss. A handful of guests approached her with a measured hesitance, presenting their names and extending their cards. She embraced some offers while turning away others, yet every exchange resonated with an unmistakable undercurrent. Alliances were in flux, and she was selecting them with great deliberation. A young journalist from a different publication approached Allison with a curious demeanor. Is she perpetually this way? So exacting? Allison maintained her focus on Danielle through the lens. This marks my inaugural glimpse of her in motion, and I find myself contemplating that precision may indeed be the essence of it all. The phone of Gregory Hunt rang once more. He dismissed it, forcefully tucking it away into his pocket. The matriarch finally lifted her gaze, surveying the room as though in quest of a single empathetic visage. None existed. From the balcony above, a photographer captured a sweeping view of the ballroom, with the tables gradually emptying on one side and the throng of guests gathering around Danielle on the other. It was an image destined for the front pages, a snapshot that transcended mere moments to become a dynamic representation of power and motion. As Danielle embarked on her final journey toward the exit, the Whitmores were gradually fading away, their presence dissolving in real time. Their names captured the online spotlight, not for securing a record-breaking deal, but for the dramatic spectacle of losing it in the most public manner imaginable. The ripple continued to spread, unyielding in its course. It was merely starting to touch the shoreline. The conference room at Carter Global Holdings' downtown headquarters stood in stark contrast to the West Haven ballroom. There were no chandeliers or champagne towers, only glass walls, a lengthy walnut table, and a silence that enveloped the room, signifying that each person present understood the purpose of their gathering. At the head of the table, Danielle took her seat, flanked by Lauren Mitchell to her right and two executives from Hudson Capital Group to her left. Before them, a screen illuminated with the most recent market data. In the initial hour of trading, Whitmore Group experienced a decline of 14%. Richard Kaplan, the silver-haired CEO of Harlow, reclined in his chair. You have stripped bare their most significant acquisition in 10 years. What lies ahead? Danielle acted without a moment's pause. We ensure that they are unable to reconstruct using the resources of others. This entails reinforcing the network. With a graceful motion, Lauren Mitchell glided a document across the table. Herein lies a comprehensive enumeration of all vendors, partners, and subcontractors that are shared among Carter Global Holdings, Hudson Capital Group, and Whitmore. We have successfully contacted 60% of them regarding alternative contracts. Whitmore is currently experiencing a decline in its supply lines. Jonathan cast a fleeting look at the list before turning his gaze toward Danielle. You are seeking a fresh start. I'm opting for a permanent one, Danielle remarked. To truly engage in the long game within our market, they must begin anew. By that time, they will lack both the leverage and the reputation necessary to remain competitive. A youthful Harlow executive engaged with his tablet. The sentiment from the press continues to favor you. Should we act swiftly? We have the opportunity to establish this as a benchmark across the industry. Absolute intolerance for any form of public misbehavior. Just do it, Danielle urged. And ensure it resonates powerfully, so that anyone contemplating an alliance with Whitmore fully grasps the consequences. Lauren Mitchell's phone vibrated with a sudden urgency. Her eyes flickered to the screen, a subtle smile gracing her lips. With a chuckle, Jonathan revealed that the investor coalition has just confirmed their decision to withdraw an additional $200 million from Whitmore's remaining projects. In the blink of an eye, they have transformed into a cautionary tale. Danielle's expression remained unchanged. Indeed, that is precisely their rightful place. In that fleeting moment, silence enveloped the room, broken only by the distant hum of the bustling city beyond. Then Danielle remarked, "There's one more thing. It is my desire for our legal team to meticulously examine each pending trademark, patent, or licensing agreement currently in their pipeline. Should it resonate with our portfolio, we acquire it before they have the chance. And should it fail, we secure it tightly enough to render it unusable." Jonathan raised an eyebrow. With a fierce intensity, Danielle locked eyes with him. The plan was essential, ruthless, precise, and wholly compliant with the established guidelines. As the meeting drew to a close, Whitmore found his choices constricting around him, leaving him gasping for air. As the Harlow team departed, Jonathan lingered at the threshold. "You know," he said, "most people would have been content to leave that ballroom with just the moral victory." Danielle rose, collecting her files with purpose. Moral victories serve as a stage for those seeking validation. I seek outcomes. With that, she pivoted toward her office, the city skyline looming beyond the glass, a poignant reminder that in her realm, the true power plays unfold once the cameras have ceased their watch. The city shimmered in hues of gold as the sun dipped below the horizon, its rays igniting the glass towers in a brilliant blaze. From the corner office of Carter Global Holdings, Danielle stood with her hands in her pockets, observing the skyline as if it were a chessboard she had already conquered. A solitary envelope rested on her desk, untouched and waiting. The embossed seal of the Whitmore Group commanded attention, unmistakable in its presence. Lauren Mitchell had set it down just an hour prior, accompanied by a soft, yet firm, indication of its urgency. Danielle refrained from reaching for it. Instead, she shifted her gaze toward the wall of windows, her reflection mingling with the cityscape beyond. The true power lay not within the confines of the letter they had dispatched. She didn't need to open it to understand its contents' pleas for reconsideration, half-hearted apologies cloaked in diplomacy, perhaps even a proposal to regain her favor. In the background, the television emitted a soft glow, broadcasting a news segment filled with snippets from the gala, while headlines danced across the screen below. Alicia Carter establishes a groundbreaking benchmark for corporate behavior. The collapse of a $800 million deal ignites a reckoning within the industry. The anchor's voice resonated with clarity. The message resonates. Humiliation, whether in the boardroom or the ballroom, comes with a price. Danielle savored a deliberate sip of her coffee, the steam ascending like a beckoning signal into the atmosphere. Outside, the city thrummed with the pulse of traffic, lights flickering to life as another day surrendered to night. Yet for the Whitmores, time had come to a standstill. Her phone vibrated, a notification from Richard Kaplan, vendor lockout finalized. The process of trademark acquisition is in motion. The repercussions of this will be insurmountable for them. She responded with 2 words, just as intended. For an extended moment, she remained still, observing the light dance, allowing the silence to envelop the space. Her mind wandered to the ripped event pass, the sly smirk, the urgent call to security. In that moment, she recalled how the crowd had instinctively parted as she made her exit, the applause swelling not from any demand of hers, but from a shared acknowledgement of something profound and undeniable. Danielle placed her coffee aside, her fingers finally grasping the Whitmore envelope. She approached the paper shredder in the corner, feeding the pages through with unwavering gaze fixed on the skyline. The blades sang their sharp song, and the seal unraveled into delicate ribbons. Lauren Mitchell entered the scene at the precise moment the final fragment descended. "The press inquires whether you will provide a statement tomorrow." Danielle gently shook her head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. The declaration has already been issued. Outside, the last rays of daylight illuminated the tallest structure in sight, the one adorned with the name of Carter Global Holdings etched into its pinnacle. It radiated with a brilliance that stood out against the encroaching blue, steadfast and undeniable. In that fleeting moment, Alicia Carter smiled, not out of triumph, but from the profound realization that she had never needed to validate her place in the room. She had crafted the room,